Alright, well, let's see. Let's go through everything. So, Splatter Shot is still Splatter Shot. Tenor missiles are really fucking good. Okay? If you... Okay, so, I want to explain, like, why the Inkzooker is so fucking good on Tenatech, because it also explains why the Tenor missiles are so damn good on this. With the Tenatech, what you need to be doing... what makes the Tenatech so effective is its ability to just, like... I'm just gonna turn this volume down a little bit. Just gonna... Yeah. We don't need that. Alright, okay, so with the Tenatech, right, the reason it's so damn strong is because it sort of chains kills and gets a Zuka and then just chains some more kills. But what makes that so powerful is the fact that with the Inkzooka you can have a presence across the map. So say the enemy team's sort of spread out and there's like sort of 4 people and they're sort of clumped together as they should be, but like the Tenatech's on one side and it gets like 2 kills, people sort of split up, and then there's 2 people on the other side of the map. Tenatech pulls out the Zuka and can help out with that, right? The Tenor missiles do the exact same thing, and that's why, like, obviously it's not as good of a thing as the Tenatech, but it does, first of all, mark people, which is what I said was interesting before. If you're getting chased by Tenor missiles, you get marked, and people can see you. So you, like, it's kind of disruptor style marking, where you can't be seen through walls, I think. I didn't see anyone through walls anyway, but you can, like, there's a ring around you, so it's a lot easier for people who are fighting you to take you out as well. So when the regular Splatter Shot gets a couple of kills on one side of the map, turns around, has a really good angle on the rest of the people on the map, and so he or she gets a couple of people marked with the Tenor missiles, and then like just fires them off. So that's, first of all, they can't just stand still, right? Like they can't, like if they're stuck, they're fucked. If they are like fighting someone, they have to dodge like 2 things instead of 1, and then they're marked as well. So it's like, it's really fucking good for that reason. Then, of course, you've got the fact that you can actually see where people are. Like, you have to rotate around, but you can still see people. So the Splatter Shot kit is really damn good. I think you definitely want to run damage up on it so you can get more out of your burst bombs. But aside from that, it's really good. Like, I had a couple of direct burst bombs there, and it was quite clearly 60 plus 30 plus 30 or whatever damage, so it wasn't actually killing. Okay, so the Splat Roller is really fucking good. It's probably the best kit in this. Maybe not the best. It probably is now that it's got suctions instead of curling bombs. If not for that switch, the dualies would have probably had the best kit. But the Splat Roller is really fucking good now. The long range flick it basically turns it into a Luna that consistently one-shots. So it's actually fucking it's just crazy. Like, on top of that, it's also, like, again, front-loaded damage, but it also paints a lot better with the, like, you can roll, you can flick, you can do the, like, line flicks and all that sort of shit, so it's really fast, too. Like, the jump flick is a lot faster than a CRB shot. CRB shot takes a second, the jump flick takes about half a second. So, to recover from, that is. So the Splat Roller at the moment, like, it's funny because the Splat Roller was fucking shit in the first one. In the first test fire. Like, you had Splatter Shot Junior and Splat Charger with, like, it was... Did they still have a Splat Rush on the Splat Charger? I can't remember. It was like... I feel like they changed the subs around, whatever. Basically, Junior had Bubble, Splatter Shot had Burst Rush, and fucking, Thingo. Maybe it had Whale. No, the other thing had Whale. I don't fucking know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and that too, Idris. Like, that's the other thing, is it just is so much better at rolling up walls and shit. So yeah, the Splat Roller is fucking fantastic. That, jump swing is amazing. Like, I think my sensitivity is too low on this. I think I need something more like -1 or 0 or something. Because I was definitely feeling a bit sluggish with my aim. But, seriously, that roller's fucking, that is an amazing, the way they've done rollers is amazing. Not just because it works, but also because it fits so well with how the game is played at a high level. Like, the same thing's true of the Charger as well, but Like that's sort of why the Stingray's a head scratcher, by the way, is because like everything else about the game makes perfect sense and works. The inkjet's hard to use, a lot harder than I thought it would be, but it does still work. It's just yeah, it's weird. The Stingray. So the dualies. It seems as though the dualies are sort of a they're weird. They're definitely good, like 100%. Especially as a like you do the sort of turret standing thing and you just empty your tank in a circle or something like that to get turf. It's really fucking good at that. Yeah, Gabe, I think it does have less range, but at the same time I was getting pretty decent flicks on it, so it sort of seems like a bit more than carbon range, but at the same time, like, that's fine. Like, it's got the long range flick, so it doesn't matter. Like, if you're trying to go for the long range flick, you just fucking smack people across the map. It's great. Anyway, yeah, so the dualies. You paint really fucking fast with those dualies when you're standing, like, when you've done the crouching shots, right? Like, that shit's crazy. Also, it does seem as though you shoot 2 shots at once. Like, I was getting double hit markers from a single trigger pull, so that was something. No, it's not a guaranteed one shot. It definitely has the same kind of fall off as a normal thing, but what else? So yeah, the dodge roll, I think people are using it wrong. People are using it to initiate. What you need to be doing is using it to follow up. So what you do is like, so you guys saw in that last game, there were a couple of points where I was like swim strafing around, just as you normally would in Splatoon 1. And the dodge roll, I think, is supposed to kind of do that for you, except a lot faster and as a sort of, like, instant burst that doesn't really matter about, like, it doesn't matter. With swim strafing, you need to have the map turfed in order to do that. With dodge roll, you don't. Like, obviously, you would want ink resistance to make the best use of that, but it still works really well with that sort of, like, swim strafing, except you don't need turf, right? So it's a really good skirmisher once it's in close. But the point is, you need to have those dodge rolls available to you, which you aren't going to have if you use them to initiate. So what you do with the dodge rolls, and this is what I've been saying the whole time, but I think this basically confirmed it, is you use the dodge rolls as a means of re-establishing sort of control of the fight. So when you're in 1v1, what tends to happen is, like, it sort of goes back and forth of, like, you know, you take a couple of shots at them, and then they squid and swim around, and you have to track them, and then they pop out and start shooting you, so to avoid that, you squid yourself, and and that sort of starts happening. It's really, like, it's actually kind of fun to watch when you got 2 really good Tenatech players or whatever. But with the dualies, you can, like, instantly turn that, right? So instead of having to squid and sort of move away and sort of be a bit stealthy, you instantly, like, you just dodge roll and you're instantly back in control, even if they've, like, it sort of turns things. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but that's what the dodge roll is for, that's what it's really fucking good at, and it's, like, practically instant too. So on top of that, if people are trying to, like, jump on you, like, I'm pretty sure it does a bit of damage too, like, when it, like, in the sort of ring around you where the little puff of ink sort of jets you forward or whatever. So that's another thing. Charger is basically Charger. Like, I think it's definitely a lot better. I think the charge hold needs to be a bit longer, honestly. But then again, that's also partly because things just sort of felt a little bit awkward. What I was sort of noticing was, first of all, there's obviously a way to keep you charged for longer, right? Like, you sort of pop out and hold it, and then, like, you recharge it, and you go swim, pop out, hold it, swim, pop out, hold it. And you sort of do that if you really need to, but that's sort of that's slow, right? Which is good, it means it's not abusable. But it's also, like, really short. You only get about a second. So that's also not ideal. And yeah, of course, the kit's terrible. Like, splat bombs are fucking amazing in this game. I think they've buffed them or some shit, because a number of times where, like, I'd be sort of they're not suction range, but they definitely have a bigger kill range. Like, that shit was fucking nuts. Yeah, I think the tap shots are fine. I mean, maybe it's just that I haven't really tap shotted anyone in a long time, so it just sort of felt like it should be harder than it was. But burst fire explosion seems bigger, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. I don't think the scopes are going to be any different though. That's the thing. Like, I think the scopes are if anything, they're going to be worse. The main reason you'd have a scope in the original game is because like you needed to outrange shit like the E-liter. But in this game, I don't think you do. I honestly don't think you need to outrange things as much in this game. Charger-wise, that is. Like, you don't... You have options for getting in close and sort of bridging that gap that you didn't have in Splatoon 1, and on top of that, it seems as though the maps are just generally harder for chargers. Like, those two maps had so much crap in the way. Like, yeah, you could sort of find some vantage points, but they were sort of Counter-Strike style vantage points where you have a good angle by all means. Like you hold down a choke point, but at the same time you don't hold down the map, and that's the main thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised, for example, if Moray, like we saw Moray and he just had the ink rails. I wouldn't be surprised if the whole reason they did that is they just slapped some ink rails on Moray to see how it would work, just kind of like how they threw together a weird looking map on Reef, like just to see how it would play out, and then they've like changed it after that. Am I still not wanting E-liter in Splatoon 2? Yeah, no, I don't really want to see E-liter in Splatoon 2, mainly because I'm sick of having E-liters on my team. Like, it's just terrible. You get E-liters on your team, they just can't hit a fucking shot because people are just getting better and better at dealing with them, and it's awful. Like, and they don't paint, and yeah, it's like, just for those, because I know there's some people who are tuning in for the first time in a while, or the first time straight up, and so my thing with E-liters is, because they don't paint, it's, they're very all or nothing, and the problem with that is, you can counterplay E-liters quite effectively. The way I put it is you just make their shot awkward. You don't have to actually sort of be completely in cover, you just need to make it so that if they take a shot at you, their muscle memory is going to work against them by, like, you know, they can see you, so they go for the shot, but, you know, maybe your body's obscured by some, like, little bit of the terrain or something like that. Because that way, not only do you not die most of the time, but they also get fucking tilted as hell, because they see you, and they're like, ooh, a shot, shoot, and then they miss, and then they're like, fuck. Yeah. Does the splatter shot kill slower? It feels like it does, but I think that's just because the dualies and the roller were also in the game, and I think they kill faster. At least the dualies do when you're crouching. But yeah, so with charges, like, the reason I don't want to see too much of them in this game is just because they seem sort of counter to this game's core playstyle, I guess, of, like, high mobility, sort of, with that kind of float. Like, the splatter shot is the exact opposite, right? Because the splatter shot, you have the fucking, you know, you're constantly moving, right? You're constantly squidding, popping up, shooting a couple of shots, the other guy's doing the same thing, and there's this sort of up and down kind of flow. With the charger, it's just like, fuck that. Like, just remove all that, stand in a spot, fucking do jumping peaks and shit around corners because your gun's, like, tiny and shit, and then, like, you don't paint the map. About the only thing you're good for is, like, occasionally using a special and being a sort of walking beacon. And then, if you do get killed, you lose because the enemy team has 4 people who play Splatoon instead of 3 on your team because you aren't playing Splatoon when you play a charger. And so you lose. So I don't think there's much point in the charge hold with the bamboo. Like, yeah, it's just weird. Weird. Considering the bamboo, you basically just sort of spam run speed and a bit of damage, and you just sort of take pot shots at people, like uncharged shots. Oh, the Seeker thing, the curling bombs, you can throw them pretty far. Like, it was on Muscle Forge, I think. I just tried to see if you could throw it, like, directly upward, sort of Kelp Dome style. But it actually, you do actually sort of throw them a little bit before they fall. So, it's definitely quite useful. Hold charge is like, you know that thing that charges can do now, where, like, you charge up and then you squid, and you keep your charge for a little bit? That's the charge hold, or hold charge, or whatever the fuck. I don't even know what the technical term for it is. But, yeah. The Inkjet... Okay, so I said before the test fire, the Inkjet looked like the strongest special. I still say that. Like, I still would definitely say that. It's just that people need to get good with it. It definitely has some quirks to it. The movement is really weird. It's, like... I think what's happening... Just my best explanation for it is, like, when you're using the Inkjet, in order to shoot, it's like, when you aren't holding squid, you instantly start rising. And so, like, you have to aim to handle that, and it's like, it's a very slow projectile. They've definitely slowed that down, I think. And yeah, so basically, it's awkward for that reason. I think there might be some camera lag in that as well. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, and the other thing with the Inkjet is the movement feels really weird, and I think it's because you sort of, at least for me, I'm kind of used to placing myself on the map. Like, my awareness of where I'm standing is usually based on my, like, what I'm seeing. So, like, say you're on the ground, and... Okay, I guess an easy example would be like Port Mackerel, right? If you're standing at the entrance to the mid alley, you know what you're seeing, right? Like, is the two containers on the side, and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, I know where I am based on what I'm surrounded by, rather than actually looking at where my feet are physically planted. The problem is with the Inkjet, you sort of, if you do that, you're going to sort of think that you're in a different location, I guess. That's the best way I can describe it. And that definitely feels really, really weird. Okay, so yeah, I think we've had a bunch of people join since I discussed the Stingray, so I'll go over that again. And yeah, flips, that was definitely a problem. Oh, one sec before I talk about that. Kingsman, yes, it's over. It's not all over. It's just this first test fire is over. The next one is in about 6.5 hours, which I'll be streaming that as well. Okay, so Stingray. What I was explaining before is, I'm going to talk about trigonometry here because there's really, like, it's just the way you describe it, really. So what I think you need to do with a Stingray is, like, jump back to spawn or something, or at the very least go really, really, really far away from the action. So on the reef, for example, there's the sort of ramp out of spawn, you can sort of stand on that, or the little block that, like, you come directly out of spawn, just go forward, you don't drop down, and there's like a block that you can stand on, or like going over to the side. The point being that when you are really far away from your opponents with a Stingray, it doesn't matter as much that you can't move your reticle as much, because, or rather your nozzle as much, because the further the enemy player is away, the more distance the beam moves at that point, like, with a smaller angle change. Like if you draw a triangle on a piece of paper or something, and just make, like, you just draw a triangle, and then, like, you take two of the sides and you just draw, like, a straight line sort of out from them. Like, you'll sort of see what I mean. Like, the distance on the third side is going to get longer and longer and longer. I can't really think of any other way to explain it, because that's just sort of whatever. So yeah, you stay really far away, and that way you can sort of make slight adjustments to keep track of people. It's still shit, by the way. I'm not saying it's I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying, like, that's the way you would handle it. And yeah, especially when the tender missiles exist. The tender missiles are fucking amazing. Like, they're, like, even better than I thought I thought, like, going into this, I kind of figured it would be, you know, Inkjet, Tenor Missile, Splashdown, uh, Stingray. But what it's actually turned out to be is the same thing, but if Tenor Missiles were as good as I thought they were, Splashdown would have been better. if that makes sense. No, the VC app isn't out yet. Oh, thanks, Tea Party. Thanks for checking that for me. Okay, so Tenor Missiles. When you are like really far away from people, you can get a really, really easy like triple or even quad mark. And the point of that is when you use it, if you use it when your team is able to follow up, it's fucking broken. Like, it's sort of like an echo that kills you. It's not wall hacks, but it still marks you. It's as though Echo disrupted you, but instead of like doing the disruptor effect, it just marks you, and then like there are things that try to kill you the whole time. But yeah, no, it's fucking, they're amazing. Like, just absolutely fucking crazy good. Like, I think at the moment they're going to outperform the Inkjet is because people aren't good with the Inkjet yet. The Inkjet is still going to be better, I think, in the end. Once people have had some time to like practice with it in the range and all that sort of thing. But Tenor Missiles right now are fucking crazy. The Splatter Shot, like, I think the Splat Roller is still the better kit in the test fire, just because the Splat Roller is fucking crazy good now. But then, yeah, the Tenor Missiles are damn strong. Like, the Splatter Shot and basically, there are 3 really good kits in this, and that's what I really like about it. The Charger is unfortunate. That's all I can really say. I was just checking. I just pressed the triggers because I could. Yeah. So yeah, for those just joining because they've sort of maybe been stream hopping a bit. Yeah, I'm going to be streaming the next test fire in about 6.5 hours. Which I think it's 6.5. Like, the last one was an hour and a half ago, so an hour and a half minus 8 hours minus an hour and a half is 6.5 hours. So whatever. Yeah. So, what is good about Splashdown? Okay, so main thing with Splashdown is it's effectively. It's like, okay, you know those situations where you're using Kraken, and you pop Kraken because someone jumps on you and you have like a 96 deco, so you can't really afford to drop it. So you use your Kraken, you kill the person, and you're just sort of sitting there like an idiot because you've just used your Kraken on one person and there's no one else to really use it on. Splashdown basically takes that and turns it into an Ink Strike. Plus, yeah, it's a safe super jump. I'm just discussing, I'm sort of analyzing, because that's sort of the thing that I do with Splatoon. What do I think of gameplay on the Switch? It's great. It's really good. The Pro controller takes a little bit of getting used to. I'm used to the sort of clunky gamepad, but because it's clunky, it sort of has a bit of inertia to it, so you can sort of like throw it around a bit, and it's fine. Whereas the Pro controller, like, I was a bit jittery early on, and you could really tell because my aim looked like I was having a fucking seizure. So that stopped happening, thankfully. No, the charges aren't useless. They're just not great. The kit isn't good. Yeah, like, see, I don't think e-liters are game breaking anymore. So the problem with I'm just going to quickly talk about e-liters before Splashdown. So e-liters in Splatoon 1, the main problem with them was when the game sort of early on. 2 things. One, the e-litter basically replaced every other charger in the game because you could run some damage up on it and it would just be better than a Splatterscope. Like, it would have... The Burst Bomb Echo was like a really fucking good kit because on top of the fact that it just pushed people off maps all the time, like, you just burst bomb your feet and people just go flying, basically. It's like being on fucking ice skates, except it's usually on Moray Towers because that just came up every fucking rotation, and you just sort of skid off the map because burst bombs had so much push. And on top of that, like, you could just spam them too because they were so cheap. So yeah, the E-Litter had, with the damage up, for those unaware, E-Litters max damage without actually hitting max charge used to be 120 instead of 100. So you could, without damage up, get 100 damage shot at like, I think 5/6 of a charge. With damage up, you could get it down to half a charge. You could literally get 100 damage on E-liter with half a charge. So that made it so that the Splatterscope was pointless, because why have a Splatterscope when you can do Splatterscope things with an E-liter, and then the E-liter is also an E-liter, you know? When they removed that, plus the change to scopes, so the part charges are the same regardless of whether you have a scope or not, that basically made E-liters pointless. And that's sort of the problem with the charges in general, is they're very all or nothing. They're either really good or really shit. There's no real in-between because they just don't work with the game. Anyway, the other thing was, early on in the game, people weren't coordinated. They weren't good at working as a team and sort of grouping up and all that sort of stuff, which meant that people would just come in one by one, and that's exactly what the E-liter is best at dealing with. So you would see, for example, an E-liter, you would just see constant highlight reels, right, where there'd be one guy over on the side, so the E-liter just swipes around and picks him off, and then the E-liter unscopes because after taking the shot, and there's another guy over there, so he scopes in and takes him out, and then there's another guy and scopes in and takes him out. It's just one after the other, and it was always they were just coming out of spawn, right? Whereas now, the way you deal with E-liters is you basically 2 or 3v1 them, and then once they're out of the picture, yeah, you need a 2v1 to kill them, but then once they're out, they can't do anything, so it's just good. Yeah, Meerkat, I'd agree with that. I think Echo Beacon would be fucking broken as hell. Anyway, so I was going to talk about Splashdown. So what I said when I was playing is that I really like how they've captured what you do with what a lot of people do with invincibility specials, the sort of panic button, and turned it into something that is both counterable, because if you use it as a panic button, it's really slow, right? You what do you mean, wow, rude? Or are you talking to Kirby's? Anyway, so when you just use it as a panic button, it's slow, which means that if the other player sees it, they can bait it and pull back, and you still have a bit of an advantage because you have the turf that you put down, but it's not as though they just instantly die and there's nothing they can do about it. So that's really good, right? Because it keeps that element of the game in, because that's going to be really useful on weapons like, say, the Rapid Blaster or the Squiffer, where you have that kind of, oh fuck, I messed up, I need to get them off me kind of thing. And the Splat Roller is actually quite good for that as well. But then on top of that, it turns it into an Ink Strike instead of a fucking invincibility special. So you can use it as a sort of... You can use yourself as the Ink Strike if you're super jumping in. There's that element to it. It's basically a stealth jump. It's not a stealth jump. People can see that you're jumping, but then you splash down so they can't just instantly camp it, you know? So, yeah. Splashdown is really good. The main problem, I guess, would just be that it's expensive. It's 180 points for a one-off thing, which, it doesn't really get kills, but it does sort of provide utility, and that's the main thing with specials in this game. Is some of them get kills, but I think for the most part they're based on utility, and doing things that main weapons and subs just can't do. So they aren't just, the Inkzooka was basically just a super weapon, a supercharger sort of thing. It did what a charger did, except it just sort of did it a bit better. You know, that sort of thing. And that's not great. That's not a really good design. I can see why they did it, obviously, because it's sort of, hey, we've got to just get this game out, just make people play it, so let's just come up with some specials. Whereas this one, they've actually put some thought into them. So, yeah, I'm very happy with most of the things in this game. The Inkjet so far is, I think, the only... Not the Inkjet, the fucking... I'm always going to get those two confused, because, one of them is a jetpack, the other one is, a jet spray thing. Yeah. But yeah, no, overall, everything's really bloody good about this game so far, aside from the Stingray. Like, Stingray, I think, is gonna... It has a learning curve, but it's still shit regardless. So, yeah. Yeah, so I guess for the next 6.5 hours, or 6.25 hours, what do? I mean, I can boot up the original Squid Game.